Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we have a community replay sent in by none other than Batamax or Batty Max. I don't know which it is and I apologize to him for getting his name potentially wrong. But thank you for sending in the video. Now, for those of you wondering, as always, I like to preface these videos with a couple of things. First of all, if you have an amazing video that you would like to see featured on my channel, all you have to do is either upload it to a file share such as OneDrive or Google Drive, or upload it to YouTube and send me the link to download or the link to view the video at my Gmail account at SpartanElite43, all lowercase, SpartanElite43 at gmail.com. It's that simple. All right? In the title, just give me a brief description of what happens, okay? If it's Kraken 400,000 damage game in whatever ship you're playing, okay? That's all I ask. Simple, straight to the point. And just remember that when I do these reviews, these are first take, one time through. I don't watch these videos to check out every single detail. I might miss things along the way, but I also tend to offer like points of things that I noticed during the battle, things that I think could be improved on, teaching moments that I noticed during the battle, so on and so forth. I am not being overly critical of the players in these battles. I just like to point out things that we can all learn from, because that's why we're all here, right? Learn and entertainment. Now, right off the bat, we are in a great position, able to get a shot at the broadside of a Fuso, and it looked pretty solid. It was all horizontal dispersion, so that could be nasty. And in fact, it was 10,000 damage. Now, remember, this is the Connecticut, the American Tier 6 battle carrier Connecticut. Meaning, we have 14-inch guns on the bow, no guns at the stern, and we have the airdrop torpedoes, the airstrikes. So, we also have a division and a destroyer on our team, which looked like potentially Leviathan-esque. I only got a glimpse of it for a moment, but here you can see the downside of the Connecticut is twofold. One, well, let's go threefold. The Connecticut's biggest weakness is the fact that it is 14-inch gun, right? You don't overmatch really anything other than cruisers, so keep that in mind. Now, veteran battleship players start to learn that overmatching isn't everything, right? Overmatching is great when you have it, but if you don't have it, you have to find ways to consistently deal damage that may be better suited to positioning. A lot of people simply don't do positioning very well. And with these battle carriers, it's that much more important. Now, unfortunately, our division mate immediately dies, and it was an Akatsuki dying to torpedoes. That is what we call unfortunate. Now, we get a shot here at the Nuremberg, and honestly, other than being slightly too far led and hitting to the front of the ship, I was expecting that Nuremberg to go kablooey. But Nuremberg does not, in fact, go kablooey, and in fact, lives with minimal damage given the circumstances. Now is sitting bow in to us. Now, we may not overmatch battleships at our tier, but by God, we definitely overmatch a cruiser. So we take a shot, and honestly, if the Nuremberg hadn't turned here, probably okay. But Nuremberg does turn and kind of catches a couple of extra rounds for his troubles. Now here we've got to make a choice. We've got DPM on the left, we've got battleships on the right. Now one thing I like to get rid of is DPM. Now we use our airstrike here, and aiming a Connecticut's airstrike is a lesson that you have to learn. It is one of those things that will drive you crazy, because these torpedoes are slow as crap. You only get 3 of them. They're relatively tight dispersion, so trying to hit anything agile with them is a lesson in futility. But he pulls it off. And not only does he pull it off, he gets the dev strike on the Nuremberg. And honestly, I don't know how he did it. That was impressive. We'll see if that trend continues. Again, this just shows that he plays the ship quite a bit, because I'm telling you, as somebody who's played the higher tier battle carriers and this thing, I prefer the higher tier ones because they have a wider spread on their torpedoes, and their torpedoes are faster, allowing for, oh my god, that was a beautiful shot, by the way, but allowing for a much easier time when lining up these quick hits. Now, we do have a Leviathan over here. That is terrifying for us, because up to this point, Mackinson, the Fuso, neither of them are particularly scary, right? However, Leviathan, as we've learned through the years, Leviathan is a North Carolina-class battleship, meaning he does overmatch us. He has American 16-inch shells, and they are nasty. So we got to keep that in mind. Now, we also have the enemy Miyoko, I believe, was over here, and it is in fact Miyoko. And you can see, once again, he is looking to line up a torp strike on a cruiser. And this is twofold. One, I already said how it's very difficult, right? But the other thing you got to think about is who is most likely to run into your torps, right? And this Miyoko sitting comfortably behind his island is being way too passive, right? Now, personally, I would have went for the North Carolina, aka the Leviathan there, because Miyoko is always one shot away from going back to port. And sitting there behind the island, basically broadside to you, you were basically guaranteed to hit that man with your guns. But he judges it perfectly. Miyoko goes forward, eats half his health in torpedoes. That is what we call preferable. So far, you've seen him get very, very fortunate. I'm not going to call it lucky, because he's lining up the torps perfectly, but he's being very, very selective about his targets, and he is judging them perfectly to the point where the people that he aims at ends up taking those torpedoes. And again, I cannot stress how difficult that is in the Connecticut. It is something you have to acquire a taste for at the lower tier, because it is not easy. But Leviathan makes huge mistake here, and once again, we have to decide. We've got overmatching battleship to our right. That decided to shoot the other battleship, so that pretty much makes up our mind. We go for the DPM here. We've got this broadside Miyoko. One good hit should send him home, and we do in fact get a double Citadel on the second shot. The first gun looked horrendous. Second gun said, "Hello, sunshine, go back to port." But Leviathan starts coming out. If the Leviathan had shot our intrepid hero in the Connecticut in the first shot, I believe that our Connecticut would have shot him back. Given the fact that you don't overmatch, getting an opportunity to shoot the broadside or an over-angled Leviathan, in this case, should have taken it. I'll be real honest. And here, if he shoots the bow, I'm going to scream. You don't overmatch, brother. So you can see he is actually going for the drive-by here. He's not going to shoot. He's not going to take the bait going into the bow. He knows he doesn't overmatch, so he waits for the drive-by. And to the Leviathan's credit, he does already have the guns turned, but unfortunately, the reload difference between Connecticut and Leviathan are considerable. But the thing that you also got to remember, if you're in that situation in Leviathan, you are f***ed, okay? You are almost never, and I do mean this, you are almost never going to Citadel a Connecticut at that range. The only exception where you could potentially Citadel a Connecticut at that range is A, through the bow, and B, if the Connecticut is turning towards you, thus raising the Citadel up as they turn towards you. That is the only time that you're likely to get the Citadel on a Connecticut. Otherwise, it's going to be either full pins or over pin city. You're just simply not going to get it. Now, we do have a second Connecticut here. He has HE already loaded for the Benson. We get a shot out. We get one shell dropping, or two shells dropping short. The other ones ended up hitting, and there we pick up our Kraken. And I don't know if you guys noticed, not only do we have a Kraken, but 148,000 damage to go with it. Now, we have fought tooth and nail on this side of the map, but the good news is we have managed to survive with most of our hit points intact. And there is plenty of time to make up any potential points difference here, and by points difference, I mean it's just 2 battleships left. Now, our friend over here in the Connecticut ends up eating 2 torpedoes from that enemy destroyer, and that is unacceptable in this situation. And I'm not hating, just pointing it out. You saw the destroyer. You shot the destroyer. The fact that you remained sailing broadside to said destroyer's last location for that long, you were bound to eat those torpedoes. You got to start turning immediately. You cannot, and I've said this many a times, you cannot wait to see torpedoes before you start to dodge them. Okay? Now, good news is we have a heal left. The other Connecticut has about half his hit points left. They are basically side by side at this point, kind of sailing in formation, a little line abreast formation. It's kind of beautiful if you're honest, even if these things are completely hideous. But then the enemy ships that they have left, they also have a Connecticut, basically nullifying any advantage we might have from the torp drops, right? But the other side of things is that the enemy still has the overmatch by having a Colorado, and there's the Colorado popping up at the last possible second. Now, if there's anything I can say in this moment. There are very few moments where I am honest and looking at potential moments where you can use HE as a battleship. And that Torp Strike, mwah, absolutely a thing of beauty. Connecticut on the enemy team, you got to be ahead of it. He ate 2 different drops from both of these Connecticut's because he simply refused to change course. Now watch. Our intrepid hero slows down, dodges the Torp Strike easily. That is because these torps are so incredibly slow. It's so easy to dodge these torpedoes, meaning if you get caught with Connecticut torps, it's basically your fault. Meaning you're just sailing in a straight line or you're sitting still or something along those lines. If you have an ounce of energy in your brain, you should be able to dodge Connecticut's Torp Strikes. All right? Especially if you know that you are going to be on the receiving end of the Torp Strike. But if I had to gripe, this is a prime example of a moment where these guys could have switched over to HE and they would have gotten rid of that Connecticut, and between the 2 of them, they would have been able to take out this Colorado. Splitting up a little bit, forcing a crossfire. Because they're so close to one another, the Colorado has actually done a fantastic job here of mitigating damage because he knows he overmatches them, but they don't overmatch him back. Meaning if he angles at all, these 14-inch guns simply don't do a whole lot. Now you can see the friendly Connecticut next to us hits the Colorado, but they don't arm. Meanwhile, our intrepid hero lands 2 of the 3 torpedoes, 1 on the Connecticut, 1 on the Colorado. Doesn't get a flood on either, which is unfortunate. But you can see that we have, in fact, finally switched over to HE, but I think it's a little too late. And I think if we had switched earlier, we would have had a much better time. You got to get that damage over time rolling in a situation where you've got bow-in battleships, right? Now, we get the double fire. He immediately damaged Khanzat. Unfortunately, Connecticut does take out our friendly Connecticut, but this is a critical mistake at the end of this battle. We've all been here. We've all done it. You've seen me do it numerous times where, once again, we put ourselves in a position to end up in a ramming scenario. And Connecticut is not a particularly agile ship, so trying to turn this boat to dodge a ram is almost impossible. But unfortunately, or fortunately, you guys get to witness not a single Kraken, but a double Kraken. Both Connecticut's on both teams ended up with a Kraken, which is hugely rare. Like, that is crazy. It's very rare to see 2 Krakens at the exact same game. But let me know what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy this? Do you guys like these community replays? Hit me up down in the comments, and if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.